I've got 7 o'clock. Is everybody ready to begin?
Yes.
Yes.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order meeting of Bellbrook City Council, May 24th, 2021. You can stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
America,
to the republic
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
for all.
Thank you. Dave, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hoke,
Here.
Mr. Havens,
Here.
Dr. Van Veldhuizen,
Here.
Mr. Greenwood,
Here.
Mrs. Middlestetter,
Here.
Mayor Schweller.
Here. We have a motion to excuse Deputy Mayor Edwards from tonight's meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Did you get that, Pam?
I think it was Elaine and then Dr. Van Veldhuizen.
Bingo.
Okay. Mrs. Middlestetter made a motion to excuse Mr. Edwards from the May 24th meeting of City Council, and this was seconded by Dr. Van Veldhuizen. Mrs. Middlestetter,
Yes.
Dr. Van Veldhuizen,
Yes.
Mr. Hoke,
Yes.
Mr. Havens,
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood,
Yes.
Mayor Schweller.
Yes, thank you. Before you should each have a copy of the minutes of the May 10th regular meeting. Does anyone have any additions, corrections, or deletions to those minutes?
No, Mayor.
No, Mayor.
Nothing from me.
Seeing none, I declare the minutes approved as submitted. Thank you. Next up under mayor's announcements, we have an Eagle Scout, Mr. Ryan Cross, and I know he's on the Zoom video right now, so he's in the webinar. And Ryan, we'll present to you a certificate of achievement. Unfortunately, we can't do it in person, but it says as follows: Ryan Cross, in recognition of your achievement of the rank of Eagle Scout, Bellbrook City Council congratulates you on your accomplishments in scouting with Troop 75. We are fortunate to have you as a member of our community and wish you great success in the future. Congratulations on accomplishing the rank of Eagle Scout, Ryan. And Ryan, we're very pleased of you. We're very proud you're able to join us in tonight's meeting. And if you want, I told you I'd give you a few minutes to give us a little insight into your Eagle Scout project.
Yes, thank you. My project was the removal of honeysuckle along a section of trail at Grant Park over in Centerville. It was conducted over the course of 2 days back in August of 2019. It involved the participation of around a dozen of my fellow scouts who came out to help. With their help, we were able to completely clear up the designated area between the trail and river in a little over 7 hours, which greatly improved visibility in that area of the park.
Sounds like a good project. And again, congratulations. Anybody, council, anything else to add to Ryan?
I will say Ryan was a young scout in the troop when I was scoutmaster, and I'm very happy to see that he's made it this far. I wish you the best, Ryan.
Thanks, Ernie. Anybody else?
Just want to say congratulations.
Again, congratulations, Ryan. That's a notable achievement and a great accomplishment. Forrest, did you want to say something, or?
Yeah, congratulations, Ryan. That's a great achievement. And if you achieved it this young in life, you'll probably achieve a lot of other things in the future. So thanks.
Thank you.
I would say congratulations, and I think that was an awesome project. I want to see all the honeysuckle in Bellbrook gone.
As do I.
Very good.
Best of luck, young man.
Thank you, Ryan. Again, congratulations. We have one brief announcement. Our next meeting is going to be June the 14th, but we do have the community meeting on June the 7th. Barry did send out an email to the city manager. Do we want to have that at 5:30 or at 6 o'clock? Again, that is not our meeting night. That is the meeting night for the township. I thought they may want to make the call as far as what they want to do and how they want to prep for their meeting, but I'm fine with either time. 5:30 or 6 o'clock, good with everybody, either time? Okay, Melissa, just respond back to Barry and say, since they're hosting and it is their meeting night, what time would they prefer? We're okay with either time.
Yeah.
Okay, tonight we do have two public hearings. The first is ordinance 2021-5, Councilman Havens.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 2021-5, an ordinance repealing section 860, public shows and exhibitions of the City of Bellbrook Municipal Code. Whereas the Bellbrook Municipal Code added section 412.07, special events, to its codified ordinances with the adoption of ordinance 2019-16. And whereas section 412.07 of the Bellbrook Municipal Code provides regulations for various types of events open to public in the city of Bellbrook. And whereas Bellbrook Municipal Code section 860, public shows and exhibitions, is deemed no longer necessary and needs repealed in its entirety. Now therefore, the city of Bellbrook hereby ordains section 1, section 860, public shows and exhibitions of the City of Bellbrook Municipal Code is hereby repealed. Section 2, it is hereby found and determined that all formal actions of this council concerning and related to the adoption of this ordinance were adopted in an open meeting of this council, and that any and all deliberations of this council that resulted in such formal action were in meetings open to the public in compliance with all legal requirements, including but not limited to section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect and be enforced from and after the earliest period provided by law. This seemed pretty simple. We discussed it last time. Seemed pretty straightforward to me.
So essentially, it's all laid out in the text of the ordinance, but when we created the special events ordinance, which addresses pretty much any kind of event, it was not realized that this section of code existed, and it's been around since the code was first written back in 1974, and it was in a spot that was very well hidden, I guess I should say. So it's in between, chapter 860 is in between our solicitor's ordinance and the sale of drug paraphernalia. So it was kind of stuck in there in a spot that we wouldn't have ever dreamed it would be. So we kind of stumbled upon it. I think it was when we were looking at the solicitor's ordinance, I found it. And so this is just a cleanup.
Thanks, Melissa. Does everyone have on council have any questions or comments on ordinance 2021-5? Given this is a public hearing, does anyone from the viewing audience have any comments with regards to ordinance 2021-5? Any takers out there, Pam? Seeing none, I declare this public hearing closed. Pam, could you call the roll? And we have a motion for ordinance 2021-5, please.
So moved, Mayor.
Thank you. In a second.
I'll second.
Thank you.
A motion was made by Mr. Havens to adopt ordinance 2021-5, an ordinance repealing section 860, public shows and exhibitions of the Bellbrook Municipal Code. This was seconded by Mr. Hoke. Mr. Havens,
Yes.
Mr. Hoke,
Yes.
Dr. Van Veldhuizen,
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood,
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter,
Yes.
Mayor Schwaller.
Yes. Thank you, Pam. Next up for another public hearing is ordinance 2021-6. Councilman Greenwood, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 2021-6, an ordinance repealing old section 1450.15 labeled demolition of the Bellbrook Municipal Code and enacting a new section 1450.15 demolition of the Bellbrook Municipal Code. Whereas the Bellbrook Municipal Code includes 1450.15 demolition, which outlines regulations for the demolition of structures in the city of Bellbrook. And whereas Article 14 of the Bellbrook zoning code provides that a certificate of appropriateness must be issued prior to any demolition occurring in the Old Village District. And whereas revisions to section 1450.15 are required to make this section more consistent with the requirements of Article 14 of the Bellbrook zoning code and to clarify notice requirements. Now therefore, the city of Bellbrook hereby ordains. Section 1, the old section 1450.15, demolition of the Bellbrook Municipal Code is hereby repealed. Section 2, the new section 1450.15, demolition of the Bellbrook Municipal Code is hereby enacted as set forth in Exhibit A, which is attached hereunto and incorporated herein by reference with deletions shown by strike through and additions by italics and underlined. Section 3, it is hereby found and determined that all formal actions of this council concerning and relating to the adoption of this ordinance were adopted in an open meeting of this council, and any public and all deliberations of this council that resulted in such formal action were in meetings open to the public in compliance with all legal requirements, including but not limited to section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 4, this ordinance shall take effect and be enforced from and after the earliest period provided by law. I think this is a fairly good ordinance. It covers the demolition, and one of the major purposes of it is for safety and coordinating the demolition process for all the entities that would be part of that. Melissa, do you have anything?
Yeah, so this is this attachment is 4 pages. Well, it's 3 pages and just like a line on the 4th page, but I just wanted to quickly go through some of this. After our municipal attorney had taken a look at it, he usually comes back with some language changes, some clarification items. So really the ordinance that was sent over to him, what we really wanted to make sure was included is in the, we really wanted to take care of 2 things with this, because we just saw the Village Review Board go through a demolition hearing for a property in the Old Village. And so we were looking at the demolition ordinance, we were looking at Article 14 as it relates to demolition. And there were really 2 things that we saw were missing that we wanted to deal with in this ordinance, which is what made this come to council initially. And that was on page 3, there is, let's see, I'm gonna try to find this. It's there's a letter E on page 3, and it talks about demolition plan. We wanted to make sure that with the different attachments with the application, that a certificate of appropriateness, if it's in the Old Village, is attached so that people know that they need to go through that step first to obtain that through the Village Review Board. And then on page 4, just that small line, transfer of permit. So we found out that Greene County will allow for a transfer of their own demolition permit. And so we thought that we would put that same language in to be in line with Greene County. So if someone wanted to go through all of the steps in order to get a demolition permit, and then they go to sell the property and the new owner wants to move forward with the demolition, then they would not have to go through those extra steps. So those were the 2 main changes actually, those were the only 2 changes that staff had made. And then all of the other modifications to this ordinance were all put in there by our municipal attorney. So it was a lot of like just clarification items. There was 2 things that I thought were pretty noteworthy. On page 1, B4, ordered demolition. it says he had extended the restraining actions to 30 days. So if somebody was affected by this, they would have 30 days to petition to the courts, basically to try to challenge that. And then on page 2, number 5, failure to comply, he added in language that said, that clarified that our code official could have the structure be raised, and then that cost would be charged against their real estate taxes with a lien. Before, it just said that the code official may take action. So it just clarified what type of action the code official could take. So those are the main changes to the ordinance. So just because we are about to see a demolition occur, this was a necessary adjustment that we thought would be beneficial in the process. So that's what you have before you tonight.
Does this affect in any way the current demolition that came before the BRB? No. Okay.
Any other questions or discussion amongst council? Given this is a public hearing, does anyone from the viewing audience have any comments to make for this council? Seeing none, I declare this public hearing closed. We have a motion regarding ordinance 2021-6.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2021-6.
Thank you, Forrest. And a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Elaine.
A motion was made by Mr. Greenwood to adopt ordinance 2021-6, an ordinance repealing old section 1450.15 demolition of the Bellbrook Municipal Code and enacting a new section 1450.15 demolition of the Bellbrook Municipal Code. And this was seconded by Mrs. Middlestetter. Mr. Greenwood,
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter,
Yes.
Mr. Hope,
Yes.
Mr. Havens,
Yes.
Dr. Van Veldhuizen,
Yes.
Mayor Schwaller.
Yes. Thank you, Pam. That concludes our public hearings for this evening. We do have an introduction of our ordinance. Ordinance number 2021-7. Mrs. Middlestetter. When you're on mute.
Okay, let's try that.
There you go.
And ordinance 2021-7, an ordinance repealing old section 412.07, special events of the Bellbrook Municipal Code, and enacting a new section 412.07, special events of the Bellbrook Municipal Code. Whereas the Bellbrook Municipal Code includes section 412.07, special events, which establishes procedures and outlines regulations for special events of a temporary nature in the city of Bellbrook. And whereas the old section 412.07, special events, addressed special events held on public property and special events held on private property open to the public. And whereas city staff recommends revisions to section 412.07 to remove provisions related to special events conducted on private property and to provide revised regulations concerning special events held on public property. Now therefore, the city of Bellbrook hereby ordains section 1, the old section 412.07, special events of the Bellbrook Municipal Code is hereby repealed. Section 2, a new section 412.07, special events of the Bellbrook Municipal Code is hereby enacted as set forth in Exhibit A, which is attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference, with deletions shown by strike-through and additions by italics and underlined. Section 3, it is hereby found and determined that all formal actions of this council concerning and relating to the adoption of this ordinance were adopted in an open meeting of this council, and that any and all deliberations of this council that resulted in such formal action were in meetings open to the public in compliance with all legal requirements, including but not limited to Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Section 4, this ordinance shall take effect and be enforced from and after the earliest period provided by law. And it's all yours, Melissa.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen with a document that was sent out today to, let's see, council members. We will make sure that this is in the packet at the next meeting. So we looked at the special event ordinance in a draft format at the last meeting and kind of talked through some of the things that we thought were beneficial to change. The original ordinance was passed in 2019. We were able to see it function some. Of course, 2020 was a year that this ordinance would not have been exercised necessarily. So now that special events are starting to come back, we wanted to make sure that we made those adjustments prior to special events really starting to get into full swing. So one of the things that the old ordinance did was it regulated special events that were held on private property that were open to the public. And so I had spoke to one of the community insurance agents to ask about how a private property liability insurance policy would deal with special events. And I was told that those events would be covered under their liability insurance, but it's always encouraged that if you're going to have a special event, that you should probably have extra insurance for that. So with that being said, we just wanted to make sure with the original ordinance that anybody that was having a special event was going to be appropriately covered in the event that something would happen to somebody from the public that would show up at one of those events, that would be covered. So now that we know that any private property liability insurance would cover those types of things, our intention was to roll that back and allow this only to deal with events that are held on public property, which aren't necessarily insured by anyone. So if you want to have a parade on a street, that would not fall to anybody's particular insurance and would require some special event insurance. And so that was really the intention of what we were doing here. So I know that we made a number of language changes, and then we sent it over to the municipal attorney, and he had some other recommendations. So Pam put together this lovely chart that shows all of the changes that were made. So again, most of them have to do with defining what public property is, which would include parks, public school property, public right-of-way, which is streets, sidewalks, waterways, things like that. Did take out things that related to private, obviously. We did change what the definition for a temporary special event was. There were a number of different definitions that were underneath of a temporary special event. And so we did change some of those. And then that's mostly what it all boils down to. Our municipal attorney did add some very specific language as it related to temporary permits with liquor permits. So this is just legal language that he had added in there. And then nothing really major here. If people are going to do anything on the sidewalk, like we wanted to make sure that anything that would be like a sidewalk sale that might not necessarily be part of an actual event, but maybe piggyback off of an event. We wanted to make sure that this did not permit people from being able to do those things as long as pedestrians of all abilities are still able to maneuver around the space. And clarified some of the permitting stuff, and then added some information about signage, and then increased the amount of the penalty from $100 to $250. That was the municipal attorney's suggestion there. And then if somebody who violates the ordinance, they may not be eligible for approval of future special events. That clause was added in there too. And then we did add in exceptions, which was part of the original version that was shown to council. And that would be any event held on public property sponsored by the city, any event on public property sponsored by the Parks District, any event on public property sponsored by the school district. Since all three of those entities have own public property, we are all insured. If we're sponsoring the event, it would fall under us. Just like the farmers market did, the city sponsored that event. Our liability insurance would have covered that if there would have been any issue with the farmers market. We wanted to make sure that that extended out to the schools as well as the parks. And and then the sidewalk sales were one of the things that were also not required to have a special event permit, just because it was kind of different. So that's the long and the short of it.
Well, so I want to thank you for the comparative chart. That certainly made it a lot easier to look through the various changes that were made. Does anyone on council have any comments or discussion?
It seems a lot clearer to me than the other one did. So I appreciate this one.
Probably the thing that I'm curious about here is where'd y'all go? Sorry, hang on a second here. There you go. Lions Club. It'll be, the festival is on a a school property. Did they already get a permit before? Is this something new for them?
They got it. They got one in 2019.
Okay. So it's not new. I can't think of, are there any ongoing events that we have typically that this is going to change things for, that anyone can think of?
I think the big things are Sugar Maple, the Lions Festival, the Farmers Market, probably the Be Well Bellbrook, and anything else come to mind? I think those are the kind of the big events downtown. I know they do as part of the Lions, they have the car show and those things too, but that's all kind of back in that same area.
Yeah.
So.
Ernie, I think one of the things on the Lions Club, I think they own that property that they have the beer garden in.
They
It's
may,
not-
yeah.
It's not actually school property.
But so that would be private property then, so that'd be okay. But like the rides and the games is still on school property. That's really what because we basically, the big change here is we're going from city facilities and changing it to parks and school property and we're including that. So we might be going away from private property, but we're definitely adding a lot too. So it's just
Yeah, defining it as public property rather than just city property.
yeah. I mean, would it be fair to float this past the school district and the parks to see if they have concerns about it?
They're exempted from getting a permit, so it's not going to hurt them.
Yeah, it just changes the way they operate. So, I mean, if they let the Lions Club have the festival on there, I don't know. Just a curiosity. I don't really see any problems with it. But just wanted to make sure we were considering all the people that were involved.
Unless there's any reason why we wouldn't be able to just send it out to school and the parks. Tell me it's a public, it'll be a public hearing on June the 14th, and they're welcome to come to that hearing and speak out.
Mhm.
Maybe
Yep.
give them advance notice of it in case they have any concerns.
Yep.
Okay. Any other discussion amongst council? We have a motion for the introduction of ordinance 2021-7.
So moved.
Thank you, Lane. In a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Forrest.
A motion was made by Mrs. Middlestetter to introduce ordinance 2021-7, an ordinance repealing old section 412.07, special events of the Bellbrook Municipal Code, and enacting a new section 412.07, special events of the Bellbrook Municipal Code. And this was seconded by Mr. Greenwood. Mrs. Middlestetter,
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood,
Yes.
Mr. Hope,
Yes.
Mr. Havens,
Yes.
Dr. Van Veldhuizen,
Yes.
Mayor Schwaller.
Yes. Thank you, Pam. It's into our ordinances. We do have two resolutions. Leading off tonight is resolution 2021-L. Councilman Hoke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. City of Bellbrook Resolution number 2021-L. A resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Bellbrook Sugar Creek Local School District for school security. Whereas the Bellbrook Sugar Creek Local School District has requested that the Bellbrook Police Department continue its increased presence at the schools within the city limits beyond its normal patrol, and whereas the school district agreed to compensate the city for this increased presence, and whereas the agreement will be effective for the 2021-2022 school year. Now, therefore, the city of Bellbrook hereby resolves that the city manager is hereby authorized to execute the attached agreement with the Bellbrook Sugar Creek Local School District, Section 2, that this resolution shall take effect and be enforced forthwith. The attached agreement, a few pages here, just goes through the scope in terms of the security enforcement by the officers, buildings to be patrolled, assignment times, fees, uniforms, supervision, so on and so forth.
So this is the, actually this resolution and the next one are resolutions that have been in place for a long time and are coming before council annually. And so this first one is just for increased presence at the schools. So they are requesting that a police officer is at one of the buildings, either on foot or in the car or on the parking lot in the building, 4 hours a day. And this would actually go until July 1st of 2022. So this is for the next school year. So this is in advance of the 2021-2022 school year. And we kept the fee the same this year. We didn't increase it last year and we didn't increase it this year. But I did talk to the police chief related to both of these agreements, and he recommended that maybe next year we do look at making a small adjustment, but we did not pass on any kind of an increase the last 2 years, just to be kind of sensitive to the schools and their constraints. So that is what this agreement is for. So this is 4 hours a day in and around the buildings for the 2021-2022 school year.
Any discussion amongst council?
And for me,
Is there any way to do this like every 3 years so we don't have to bother with it every year? I mean, we've done it forever, haven't we?
Yeah, it's been very consistent, I think.
Just less paperwork, more time focused on other things. That was just a thought.
And you said, Melissa, there had not been a cost increase.
We did not increase it last year or this year.
Okay. Do the
Yeah.
costs that are being charged, do they cover the officer's time?
Yeah, the chief was comfortable with it.
Yeah, I just looked at the budget. Looks like going back to 2019, it was the same fee of 16,500. And 2018, it was 16,250. So a modest adjustment a few years back.
I just did a quick calculation. If you figure it's, basically 80 hours a month times 9 months, you're talking 720. The rate comes out to about $23 an hour. So it's probably a little bit light, but not incredibly light. It's not our command staff out there doing this. This is the duty officer and probably some of the newer people too.
And it's
Any more
good.
discussion on resolution 2021-L? Seeing none, can we have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. In a second.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Mr. Hoke made a motion to adopt resolution 2021-L, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Bellbrook Sugar Creek Local School District for school security. This was seconded by Dr. Van Veldhuizen. Mr. Hoke,
Yes.
Dr. Van Veldhuizen,
Yes.
Mr. Havens,
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood,
yes,
Mrs. Middlestetter,
yes,
Mayor Schweller.
Yes. Thank you, Pam. Next up is resolution 2021-M. Dr. Van Veldhuizen, please.
All right, Mayor. City of Bellbrook, resolution number 2021-M. A resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Bellbrook Sugar Creek Local School District for security at home football games. Whereas the Bellbrook Sugar Creek Local School District has requested that the Bellbrook Police Department provide police officers in an extra duty capacity at Bellbrook High School home football games. And whereas the school district agreed to compensate the city for this extra duty, and whereas the agreement will be effective for the 2021 home football season, now therefore the city of Bellbrook hereby resolves that the section 1, that the city manager is hereby authorized to execute the attached agreement with the Bellbrook Sugar Creek Local School District. And section 2, that this resolution shall take effect and be enforced forthwith. And the attachments on this one are similar to the other. Covers the scope of the agreement, enforcement, officer uniform, supervision, release from service, cost to services, a hold harmless clause, invoice, workers' compensation, and the fact that the agreement terminates December 31 this year or is otherwise provided herein.
And this one has been in place for a while too. This is just the home football games. So August to December of 2021, it's 3 hours worth of time. And that's basically it. We did not change any fee. It's a flat rate of $125 per officer per night. So this is a higher rate than what the schools are. And we did not make any adjustment for this one either. But again, the chief did recommend that next year we look at making an increase or an adjustment. So that's that.
We normally have what, 2 officers at each game, or
Let's see, I believe that that's right. Let me
I thought there
look.
was usually 2 of them there.
3 if available.
Okay.
Does the township provide 3 also?
I do not know.
This is probably a minor question, but last year's success brought playoff games to the home field. Do we have to have a special agreement for that, or do they just, is it ad hoc and say, okay, we'll take care of it?
Yeah, if they have extra games, they just let us know and it just extends into that.
Okay,
I think it's because the city does it because the stadium is in the city.
That's right.
It's not in the township.
I believe that's correct, Elaine.
Mhm.
They built a new high school, but they left the stadium behind the old one.
Correct. Any more discussion on resolution 2021-M? Seeing none, can we have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion, Mayor,
Thank you.
to adopt it.
Thank you. In a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
A motion was made by Dr. Van Veldhuizen to adopt resolution 2021-M, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Bellbrook Sugar Creek Local School District for security at home football games. This was seconded by Mr. Hoag. Dr. Van Veldhuizen,
Yes.
Mr. Hoag,
Yes.
Mr. Havens,
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood,
yes,
Mrs. Middlestetter,
Yes.
Mayor Schwaller.
Yes. Thank you, Pam. We have no old business. We do have an item under new business regarding utility billing penalties.
Okay, so I am asking that council make a motion to waive utility billing penalties for the months of June, July, and August for our utility billing software conversion. So back in, I think it was the 2020 budget, we were going to do a finance and utility billing software change. And so that conversion has become much more complicated than what we had imagined, and it's been delayed. It is finally happening, which is great. So we are going to go down May 27th. So May 26th will be the last day that people can make payments. It's after the due date. It's after the disconnections and all that. So it's kind of the lull that we have before the new billing where there's really no activity. We might get 4 or 5 payments a day. So we will be down for a period of time. But since we are switching software, it will be a new online billing portal that people will need to register for. And if they had recurring payments, they'll have to reset that up with the new website that we will have. And so we just want to make sure, because, you know, that's just one of those automatic things to people where, you know, if you're set up for recurring payments, especially it comes out every month, you might not necessarily pay close attention to that type of thing because you've got it set up, it's off and running, and you don't really have to think about it. Since there will be a change and it's going to require action on the behalf of folks, we just wanted to make sure that we're not penalizing anybody if they did not necessarily notice it and they were late. So we don't see a lot of late fees anyways. This isn't going to be anything that necessarily breaks the bank, but we just want to offer that courtesy to customers that if they do not see the message, they do not get it set up in time, that they're not going to be penalized. But especially in June, our utility bills are going to go out late because of this. They're going to go out like 5 or 6 days late because of the conversion. So we would obviously be pushing the bill due date, and we just want to make sure that nobody is penalized. But since everybody's billed on a quarterly system, not everybody on the water system is going to get a bill in June. Some people, that's not their billing month. Their billing month isn't until July or August. So we wanted to waive the penalties so that we can get everybody through that first billing cycle, and then everybody will be up and running. So that's
Melissa, the only way we can waive these penalties is through an action of council, correct? I mean, we need an ordinance or a resolution to actually waive those. Otherwise, you're not permitted to do that under a charter.
Correct. It's set by ordinance, and if the auditors ask why we just stopped applying penalties for 3 months, then we can say, you know, we had an action account, so we had a software conversion, and it would all be very much above board, so
Okay. And you said the penalties are pretty minimal on a monthly basis anyway?
very minimal.
Okay.
How is the word of this going to get put out? Is it via mail, or do you want to use social media?
So we had put, it's on the main page of our website. I put it in our e-newsletter. Michaela's putting it on the bills. Michaela did an email push to every single person that's signed up with the current system. So we're trying to get it out every way that we can. We can also do a hyper reach too. So if we need to do that, we can also do that as well. So we're trying to get every means of communication. We'll keep doing it for the next 3 months. So hopefully everybody gets the message.
Okay.
You have a number, rough number of what minimal means, like under $1,000, under $10,000
Oh, it's
Good.
maybe $100 a month.
total that we would be missing out as far as income.
Yeah, it's nothing really to speak of.
Okay.
Melissa, will there be any account number changes or anything like that? Like
No.
for people? Okay.
Nope, just the website that they use is the only thing that's gonna change. It'll be an inconvenience for about 5 minutes, but after that, we should be good to go.
Any more discussion of council? Could I have a motion to waive the utility billing penalties for the months of June, July, and August for the utility billing software conversion?
I'll make a motion, Mayor.
Thank you. In a second.
I'll second it then.
Thank you, Elaine.
A motion was made by Dr. Van Veldhuizen to waive the utility billing penalties for the months of June, July, and August 2021. And this was seconded by Mrs. Middlestetter. Dr. Van Veldhuizen,
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter,
Yes.
Mr. Hope,
Yes.
Mr. Havens,
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood,
Yes.
Mayor Schwaller.
Yes, thank you, Pam. Next on the agenda is the city manager report.
Okay, so I just went over the finance and utility billing software conversion. The conversion will happen. We'll have our data extraction from our current system on May 27th, and they will be live on the 4th of June. So our entire bill pay portal will be shut down during that time, and our whole finance system will be down during that time. So we will be back up and running on June 4th. And at that time, we will be able to get the utility bills out. So they're going to be a couple days late, but we just took care of any kind of a penalty issue that folks might run into if they had not made that switch. So that is what is going on with that. Bellbrook TV update. So we had a piece of equipment that I believe was 15 years old. A piece of technological equipment that's 15 years old went down. So not surprising. We're trying to, we want to make sure that all of the cable system, it's currently in Fire Department 1. We want to move it to the city admin building just because that's a better permanent spot. If we have to pay to replace it, we want to go ahead and move it. In trying to figure that out, we found out that the line that goes straight to the cable company is something that is no longer serviceable, and we were kind of grandfathered in with the use of that, so they can't move it. It's turning into kind of an ordeal, but we are on the path of getting all that worked out. It's going to take a little bit of time to get that done because we're dealing with, you know, a cable provider and getting them to come out and do the work, and we're still trying to figure out what it's going to cost though. So we are on the right path forward. We know what the equipment is going to cost. We're just trying to figure out this line situation, but the cable channel is back on air. I myself made a video that loops, and it's basically a slide video that loops. It's got a lot of the information that was on the old cable channel when it wasn't airing like council meetings and things like that. So it's like a 7-minute video and it loops, but we are on air, which is great because if we're not on air, then we don't get cable franchise fees, which is a big deal to the community. It's a big deal to our budget. It's like $100,000 a year. So that little video makes us legal, which is great. But I just wanted to make sure that something got up there quickly. And so we were able to do that. Pam and Lieutenant Narker in the fire department, who is our I guess our cable guru, just kind of by default, he got the short straw, I think, at one time. So he has become the cable guru. So Pam and Greg have been working on this thing, really trying to get it together for in-person meetings, because the provision to allow for electronic meetings is going to end at the end of June. There is legislation in the pipe somewhere in the pipe. I know Pam pays attention to it, to try to make that a permanent ability, but it might not happen in a timely manner. Who knows when it could happen. So with that being said, as of July 1, we have to go back in person. So in order to do that, we needed to make sure that the cameras that are in the council chambers are going to go out somewhere. So we had bought last year, I believe, with some of the coronavirus relief fund money, we had bought the adapter or device that is able to take from our cameras and put directly onto YouTube. So we do have that ability. It is up and running. So when we do go back to in-person meetings, the meetings will just stream straight to YouTube, which is nice because I feel like YouTube is much more accessible than what the cable channel is, because you can access them at any time versus waiting for it to maybe come up on cable without a programming guide. You know, maybe you'll get lucky and it'll be on, maybe not. But YouTube is much more user-friendly, and it's a lot more accessible to people. So that's going to be possible. So when in-person meetings do happen, it'll stream straight to YouTube, and we'll figure the cable part out later. So we're working on it, but at least when in-person meetings are able to happen, they will still go out live. It will be fine. It will be accessible to people. So that was a lot right there.
I'm sure it just keeps us in the loop on that, because I'd like us back on the cable channel. I mean, the cable fees are a nice little piece of income we get to kind of help support some of the infrastructure we have for that. So appreciate what you're doing in that regard.
Two more things. American Rescue Plan guidance was released on May 10th. I just got an email right before this meeting that it changed again. They are including townships now. So that's a big deal, because they weren't including townships before. So I literally got the email probably 5 minutes before I sat down. So I have not had a chance to look at it yet, but we still haven't received our funds yet. We're still waiting on that. We're just kind of in a holding pattern with it. So again, you know, it came out May 10th and here it is May 24th and they've already changed it. So this is just going to be the status quo for sure. So we just need to just be patient and make sure that what we end up going by is really the final version, hopefully. Article 14 rewrite. So the rewrite had made it through planning board. And then of course we sent it over to the municipal attorney. And then we had lots of other revisions. And so there were so many revisions that we took it back to planning board. That's just one of those things, you never know where to make the call. Like, do you take it to the municipal attorney first? Do you take it to the planning board first? I mean, it's really kind of a flip a coin and go with it, but it's going to go back and forth. So with such a big piece of legislation, the attorney had lots of good suggestions, went through planning board, and that was pretty easy. Pam, I have not watched that meeting yet. I had forgotten to do that, actually. I try to watch every single one of the board meetings, and I did not watch that one yet. So it went through planning board for the second approval, and the finalized version will be taken to the VRB for their review. We don't have to take it to the VRB, but since it's the one and only article that they work with, we thought that it's really smart to let them see it through their own perspective in case they have any suggestions before it comes to council. So that thing is moving along, and I am so incredibly happy with that because it's just going to be a lot better. So stay tuned for that one. It'll be a while, but it'll get here. So that's it for me.
Melissa, on the, and maybe Pam knows this better, on Article 14, have we had a lot of citizen input or mostly just from the boards?
This time through it's been all boards.
Okay,
I mean, it's been in all the agenda packets, and, you know, there have been some citizens who I know are paying attention.
okay,
So,
okay.
yeah.
I just know last time we did it, this had, you know, some full house meetings and everything to
Yeah.
hear about it and all that. And I think it's a lot more, it's been clarified quite a bit, and I think it's a lot more understandable. So I think it's hopefully going to be easier to pass through.
Is it worthwhile to, I mean, isn't that really kind of the role of the planning board, is to have it vetted publicly too before it comes to council? Is it
Yeah, and-
worthwhile having a public hearing?
Yeah, well, and yes, and
Go ahead, Jerry.
they spent months going through it. So, I mean, it's not like they rushed through it. The planning board took a lot of time and put a lot of effort into it. So,
I'm talking about the public, like a public hearing, as a part of the process. Like an open forum. or
and their
something.
meetings are all open.
Yeah.
Okay.
We will have the public hearing.
You will have it,
it.
yeah.
We
You will
just
have
had a
public
lot more
hearings.
people showing up at planning board meetings for input. And of course, Article 14 that was a substantial rewrite back in the mid-90s, I think. So this is the next time it's been kind of looked at, like 25 years later, give or take. So I expect decent crowds for us to have the hearings, to be honest with you.
And I did plan to bring it to council, kind of like this special events ordinance, you know, let you guys look at it first, digest it before it comes in ordinance format, because it is such a big piece. Like I would feel much more comfortable bringing it in that format. If anybody has any issues or, you know, wants to see any changes, it's a lot easier to do that versus having it in ordinance format, and it's very formal and you feel like you don't have an opportunity to add any input if you would like. So that's the plan that we were gonna, that's the route we were gonna go with that one.
You know, I believe one of the planning board meetings I attended, they went through, I think it was page by page. And there's a lot of detail out there. So
Yeah, they went through every page of it multiple times. So,
any questions of the city manager? Moving on to committee reports. Service.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things. Water tower number 1, painting project bids are being taken at this time. Water tower 1 is located next to the Ron Kyle Park. Water tower 1 was built in 1971, last painted about 15 years ago. Dixon Engineering oversees our painting and inspection processes for our water towers. Along with painting, an in-depth inspection process will be done. Inspection of welds, corrosion repair, and cathodic protection will be repaired. The Bellbrook Service Department has always been proactive in preventative maintenance, and over the years, this has proven to be cost effective. Our system's developed enough to allow for any of our water towers to be taken out of service for maintenance processes. Last note, the hot weather has brought the demand for water from about 750,000 gallons to about 1 million gallons a day. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Forrest. Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple quick notes from the police department. They continue to follow COVID protocols that align with some common sense. Just with the governor's mandate of easing some of the protocols, they are wearing masks when it obviously makes sense, but they continue to clean their work areas, wash hands, maintain social distance when possible. And just a quick summary from the pandemic, there were 2 officers that contracted COVID since the pandemic started. Let's see, I'm sorry, there are only 2 officers out of the 15 employees tested positive. Sorry, I had to read that note correctly. So the practices and discipline paid dividends for our police force. From a police standpoint, just wanted to report that all members have completed their annual standing orders training as set by the area medical directors for the year. They have completed 2 weeks of free blood pressure checks, and they're going very well. Just a reminder that blood pressure checks occur Friday, 10 to 11 a.m. at Station 22. And they also wanted to convey that if anybody is homebound and would like to get a COVID vaccine, please contact the station at 937-848-3272, and they'll be glad to help. That is it from a safety standpoint. Thank you.
Thank you, TJ. Finance and audit, I know Nick's not here, but does Dave or Ernie have anything to add?
No, Mayor.
And not
Okay,
for me tonight, Mayor.
thank you. Community Affairs, Elaine.
Okay, we have an interview scheduled on Wednesday afternoon for the vacancy on the Old Village Review Board. And we have a vacancy on the Board of Zoning Appeals Property Review Commission. That opening is advertised in a number of places. The deadline for an application is June 10th. Once we receive those applications, we'll schedule interviews and find a replacement for Mr. Costi, who is moving out of state. And that's all I have on community affairs.
Thank you, Elaine. Pam, time for the clerk's update.
Nothing much from me right now. You just, I know we're trying to get the final details for the community leaders meeting on June 7th. And there will be some resolutions coming forward, the first on June 14th, to start the process for putting the levy on the ballot for November. And that's all I got for you tonight.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Now we're to open discussion. Once again, starting alphabetically, Forrest, anything for open discussion this evening?
Just a quick note. You go by the fire station, you see the marquee. Congratulations to class of 2021. And I know it's been a rough year for a lot of reasons for the schools, and I think they've done an outstanding job. And I remember when my last child graduated, I think it was 2000. I took a picture of that marquee, and I keep that picture, and it's just amazing how quick time flies. So but I do appreciate the graduating class. We're getting through it. That's all I have, Mayor. Thanks.
Thank you, Forrest. Ernie.
Thank you, Mayor. Very short and sweet. Big congrats to class of 2021, and congratulations to Ryan Cross for his Eagle Scout project. I think that's very important for the city to recognize. I'm glad we did.
Thanks, Ernie. TJ.
No additional comments from me, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Elaine.
Nothing additional, just the same congratulations to the graduating class and to, I'm sorry, Crosses. I forget his first
Ryan
name.
Cross.
Yeah, okay. Him too.
Dr. Dave.
Well, sir, from this end of the alphabet, just saying hello. Congratulations. It's kind of nice to see graduations and parties again in the city. And I think the only other thing I would add is that your service committee is taking a walkabout Wednesday night. I think TJ and Forrest and I are meeting Melissa, and we're going to personally look at some of the work that's being proposed, and we might partake of a little ice cream also. So that's
Very
all
good.
from here, sir.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. I have nothing more to add other than to wish the viewing audience and our citizens a very happy and safe Memorial Day holiday. And once again, congratulations to our newest Eagle Scout, Ryan Cross. Pam, is there anyone out in the viewing audience who would like to talk tonight? Okay, hearing none. Does anyone on council have any other business to bring before this meeting tonight?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. Seeing none, I declare the meeting adjourned. Thanks for your attendance. Have a great weekend and enjoy the holiday.
Enjoy the holiday. Night all.
Night, everybody.
All right.